All right, welcome. This is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. Happy Sunday, everybody. Today I am live with Patrick J. Today we're going to do a edge rusher slash defensive line breakdown, and then we're also going to go ahead and break down picks 1 through 10, go over the different options, see what is possible, and after the fact, we're going to see what players could possibly be available for the Eagles at 6, but we're going to take it all the way to 10, guys. So we're going to go 1 through 10, and then we're probably going to talk about other teams in the NFC East a little bit. One, because I'm interested, and secondly, I kind of want to talk about how impressed I was with third string quarterback Taylor Heineke in that playoff game against the Buccaneers for the Redskins. Let's kick it off there, actually. Patrick, what did you think about quarterback Taylor Heineke in that playoff game when the Redskins played the Bucs?
Like that's one of those stories, man. He just comes out of kind of nowhere and then just puts on a show. Like we are used to watching Dwayne Haskins and nothing against Alex Smith. He was coming back from that gruesome injury, but when everybody thought that the Washington football team was just done, here comes this guy and he just kept his team in the game. And then I honestly think that it's too early to roll with him. He's more of an unknown more so than anything, but he does have great intangibles for sure. So I do completely believe that he'll be in the camp, at least competing for the starting position, depending on what kinds of moves they make. There were some reports out there that the Washington football team has kicked tires on Matthew Stafford, even offering him that number 19 pick, so they are pretty serious about getting that quarterback of the future. They still do have a couple different options out there in trade market, as we know, with Carson Wentz. I know they kicked tires with Deshaun Watson and Sam Darnold as well. So we'll see how it goes, but he definitely did show some good things. But he's more of an unknown more so than anything at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the one thing that I want to say is, I mean, if I were the GM of the Redskins, I mean, I think I would say that Taylor Heineke's performance in that playoff game excites me. One, because in my opinion, Patrick, he showed starter potential in that game. I mean, some of those throws that he was making with accuracy, the way that he was able to keep those guys in that game against the team that eventually won the Super Bowl, obviously, and against Todd Bowles' defense, were just absolutely phenomenal. And secondly, you got him on a cheap deal. I mean, they have him on a cheap deal. They have him on a rookie contract, if I'm not mistaken on that. And yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, obviously they want to go ahead and bring in somebody to compete just because he is kind of an unproven guy, and it was a very small sample size. But I mean, give the guy credit. That's a big moment. That's a really big moment, man.
Yeah, absolutely, and it shows his poise too. I mean, he has bounced around quite a bit. He's been in with the practice squad with the Patriots, and I think he started his career with the Vikings and Texans and Panthers all the way up to his opportunity with the Washington football team. But yeah, his poise and his level of play in that important moment, it definitely shown. And then I think Washington football team definitely awarded him with that opportunity to be in camp with the 2-year deal that they gave him as well.
Right, exactly. That is correct. It was a 2-year deal that they did give him. I forgot about that. And Carson Wentz, that's surprising to me that they showed interest in Carson Wentz. I mean, it makes sense. We've seen Carson Wentz pretty much destroy the Washington football team time and time again, with the exception of this past season. But they're more than knowledgeable on what Carson Wentz is capable of doing. So that doesn't surprise me that they showed interest in him. But let's actually, I do want to obviously transition into that real quick. Is, as we know, there's not much updates regarding the Carson Wentz trade rumors, and it is quiet right now. And that's it's kind of exciting, and it's kind of a little bit boring, honestly, just because we want something to be happening all the time, and because Carson Wentz is still on this team, it's just giving us, we have to find more things to you have to find more stories to come up with and talk about. But it is always quiet before the storm, and so when the lightning strikes, it is going to be complete and utter pandemonium. But I do want to mention this. Obviously, as we mentioned yesterday, they are trying to involve Zach Ertz in that trade deal, and I think this is why. I think the Eagles and I think Hy Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are set on resetting. I think they're set on getting that big haul back in that trade that does include Carson Wentz, and I think that is the validating reason for including Zach Ertz. I think we've spent so much time talking about them trying to get Matthew Stafford compensation when I just don't understand. I just don't think that that's the right pulse. You know what I mean? Like, of course they're not going to get 2 first-round picks. Like, we know that, but if they do include Zach Ertz and maybe another pick, it's possible that they could get a first-round pick and maybe a third and possibly, a complementary or a conditional pick later down the line, which would give them a little bit more ammunition or trade or possibilities in the draft to bring in more players so that they do have a better opportunity at resetting this entire team, which is something that they of course need to do with the aging defensive line, with the fact that they have to address the secondary, with the fact that they have to address the linebackers, the offense, all of the above. What do you think about them trying to bring in a haul as opposed to getting those 2 first-round picks that because that's the Matthew Stafford deal, and I just don't think that that's the correct evaluation. What do you think?
Right. I mean, anytime you have a player or an asset of sorts, even if it's someone like Carson Wentz who have lost some value in the span of last year or two, you do want to get as much back as possible. But then it is a little bit of a waiting game. But kind of like what we mentioned yesterday, there is that deadline before the $10 million bonus hits. So you are trying to be patient, but at the same time, you do have a little deadline that you are working with. If in a position where the Eagles are at, hiring a brand new coach and possibly going with a brand new quarterback in Jalen Hurts, it's exciting, but you do have to kind of do that reset button. If that's the route that you're going, you do want to get as much assets as possible. And then, when you have a commodity like Carson Wentz, you definitely want to do and go out there and do as well as possible for your team. It's a little bit hard, though. There are some dominoes that has to fall. So that's when it gets a little bit hard when you're dealing with being patient or having to pull a trigger when you get an offer, because there are some options out there for these teams.
Sure.
There's tremendous amount of teams out there that needs quarterbacks, like the quarterbacks, whether it's teams with quarterbacks that are aging, like Drew Brees of the Saints or the Ben Roethlisbergers of the Steelers, or even the Super Bowl champs. Tom Brady just won it, but he can't play at this level forever, even though it looks like he can. And then there are teams that clearly needs quarterbacks, like the 49ers, the Panthers, the Jaguars, the list goes on. But then there are some options too, if you're looking at a proven commodity. I mean, you can still, you have Deshaun Watson, who's the biggest fish out there, that might be the next little domino to fall. And then you can kind of start talking about guys like Carson Wentz and Sam Darnold, but we'll see how it goes. If I were the Eagles, I am willing to be patient with it, but at the same time, you do have that deadline of $10 million that's coming into play. And then, they'll kind of just have to see how everything else goes at the same time too.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a good point that you brought up. You would be patient with it. And that's the thing, is Hy Roseman being too patient? Is he in over his head? And that kind of also leads into this too. I mean, obviously report came out, the 49ers are interested in holding on to Jimmy G. We'll have to see how that plays out as well. Obviously it is too early to tell. I assume that they're going to want to bring in some competition to go ahead and compete with Jimmy G if they do go ahead and keep Jimmy G, and obviously Jimmy G, I mean Jimmy Garoppolo, porn star Jimmy. No, I'm kidding. But let's go ahead and start talking about this defensive line edge rusher breakdown that we got. So you have for your defensive line rankings, my friend, and we're gonna do the top three defensive line and the top three edge rushers. You have Christian Barmore as your top defensive lineman out of Alabama. Go ahead and talk about it, Patrick.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like almost every player that we talk about are from Alabama or SEC, right? So another guy from Alabama, he's got a great size, 6'5", 310 pounds. That size really will allow him to play either 3-4 or 4-3. So I mean, he's going to be an asset for whichever team that gets picked, that picks him. So he does have a lot of techniques along the defensive line. He utilizes size really well that helps him in the battle on the trenches. His pass rushing is probably his main skill set. He can really just go after the quarterback. He's not afraid to go vertically. He doesn't necessarily just wait around. He'll just kind of utilize all his different techniques to kind of attack the offensive lineman, just go after the quarterback. He has a really good upper body strength, lower body strength as well. He has, I mean, as weird as it sounds for a 6'5" guy, I think he has even more room to grow at his 310-pound frame that he has. Coming from Alabama, he has right techniques and right skill sets that develop in a good program, like a pro program. So he should be able to come in and help any team right away as a penetrating 3 technique guy with the vertical push, like I said, completely creates a good disruption for any NFL defense. If we have to nitpick him, I mean, he does not have necessarily a great speed or explosiveness for his size. So, I mean, that's something that he can definitely work on, depending on his footwork and different skill sets that he can develop with the NFL coaching. I mean, he should be able to create that different movement that can kind of help him out with the explosiveness. But he's for sure going to go. Defensive linemen generally don't go that high in draft, but I see him as a first D-line to come off, maybe in the late first round or early second round for sure.
Sure. Now, because of the fact that he doesn't have quite the explosiveness and the speed, would you paint him as more of a 3-4 guy? I understand that he might be a little bit undersized for the 3-4, or would you still plug him in at a 4-3, or is he just versatile to play both schemes? I think we lost him there. I think we lost Patrick there for a second.
I'm here. My bad.
Oh, you're good.
So, I mean, yeah, he's a go-getter. So he's like I say, his main strength is a pass rushing, and then he's not afraid to go vertical. So with his frame and his height at 6'5", I mean, it'll work really well in 3-4 scheme, and he's gonna be one of those guys that should be able to kind of plug up holes, but he will have to have, one of those bigger guys around him, nose tackles or whatnot that can kind of support him in his skill sets. But I think his skill sets can definitely work in either 3-4 or 4-3.
Nice. And let's go ahead and what would you say is a good player comp for Christian Barmore?
I'm sorry, one more time.
What would you say, Patrick, is a good player comp for Christian Barmore?
Christian, he's a little bit different because he's a bigger guy. And then I'm not 100% sure who I would necessarily compare him to, like in today's game. I mean, it's unfair for me to compare him to some of the great guys out there, but he's one guy that I don't necessarily have a player comp for out there quite yet.
Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and let's go ahead and move on to the second guy that you got on your defensive line ranking as well, which is Jay Tufele. I believe that's how you say his last name. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
All right. Give me 1 second here.
I mean, he's a guy that's coming from Pac-12. You know how I feel about Pac-12 guys. He's USC guy. Another good size, 6'3", 315. He aligns in the 3 technique, and then he has that very good athleticism, and then he's he's quick. He's when you see a guy like this who's towering over you, you're not going to think that he can move around that quickly, but he's really quick and he gets off the snap really well. He's one of those guys that's going to command double teams for sure. So he's going to disrupt protection, and then anytime for runs, he's going to be able to stuff them. For when it comes to pass, he's going to be able to take two guys, allowing one guy to be free to get to the quarterbacks. He has real good hands and he can defeat single blocks easily. And like I said, when it's not single blocked, when he's covering two guys, I mean, that allows your other teammate to go out there and get the quarterbacks too. He's explosive is one word, and he can play all three downs, which is huge for defensive linemen. Schematically, he's versatile enough to play 3-4 or 4-3. I think he's more designed to play 3-4 and a single gap penetration scheme, but he's, like I say, he's versatile. And he's a guy that comes from pro style defense too. So he's definitely going to have a calling card in the NFL too.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one thing I'd like to say about Jay too. It is me nitpicking a little bit. So, but the one thing I do know about USC, and I know this due to the fact that we had a defensive tackle come out of USC. The Eagles did, by the name of Benny Logan, and he was a honorary captain. They kind of make it a big deal out there at USC to achieve this number, and the number that I'm talking about is number 18. I would have loved to see Jay achieve the ability to wear number 18. It just would have been the cherry on top of his already stellar draft prospect profile.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So right. It is me nitpicking just a tiny dad. But
no, you're good. I mean, you have to have these kind of, that's what this is about. The conversation is to like nitpick and stuff like that. I mean, you're talking about a guy that has great balance, great hands and power and technique. But I mean, of course, he does have places where he can work on. I mean, his length is one thing. If I had to nitpick, you're talking about when we're talking about Christian, he had that length and he can go vertical, but where Jay lacks in is that length. His wingspan is not as long. So when it comes to like battering passes down or actually stuffing the guys or really getting to the quarterback, that's where he's going to struggle. So that's where his explosiveness and his quickness can really come and help him out in this kind of, like shortcomings, I guess, in a way.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And either way, I mean, he is a really exciting prospect coming out of USC, and certainly one of those guys that will be able to help a lot of teams. So I mean, either way, 18 or not, he's probably going to be one of those guys that are going to help significantly. What would you say is a better trait for him? Do you think he's better in the run defense or pass defense?
I think he's more of a run stuffer more so than anything. He's like I said, his quickness definitely can play out in the passing games too, but he's more of a run defense. In the passing games, he's not going to be the guy like Christian Belmore who's going to go get the quarterback, but definitely taking a double team and taking another guy away from the assignment is going to really help out his teammates from rushing the quarterback. So, I mean, he's going to have a role to play in either of the situations for sure.
Sure. All right, and now the next guy, third on your list, is Levi Onwu, and I'm not going to even try to attempt the rest of his name.
I believe it's Onwuzurike. So, yeah, Levi Onwuzurike from Pac-12 again here.
University of Washington Huskies. Tell me a little bit about this guy. This guy kind of reminds me a little bit of a Fletcher Cox, honestly. But I want to know what you think about this guy, Patrick, and where you think he can go in the draft, and what would be a good team fit for this guy. What's a good comp pick for you?
Yeah, so Levi, he's like I say, he's one of those bigger guys too. He's 6'3". He weighs in at 300 pounds. So he actually clocked in. He weighed in at 290 in his pro day, but I believe there's a report out there that he's gaining muscles to get up to 300, which is crucial to add to his frame. He's one of those athletic guys. He demonstrates quick body quickness. He's a good pass rusher. he definitely excels as a defender with his length and good wingspan. He's disciplined. His techniques are far advanced for his age. He maintains gap control, which is another big strong suit for a guy of his size. He's tough, and he can play three down just like Jay. He's one of those guys that's going to go out there and then does not want to come off the field. So he's going to be an eventually a starting NFL defensive lineman. Not like the other two guys. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready to step into that starting defensive role, but he's going to fit into any type of rotation really well. He's an ideal 4-3 guy though. Because he's a little bit undersized compared to the other guys. So I think he definitely fits in better in the 4-3 schemes. He I think actually fits in with teams like Chiefs, who already have fairly good amount of players that can surround him. He can go out there and just really be surrounded by guys like Chris Jones or Derek Nandi, and then just really just support him in that rotation, and then be a really good run stuffer. And like I said, they do play that 4-3 defense, which I think he's going to fit really well in. But look for him in the second round. He's going to be a steal towards the later of the second round, but there might be some teams that's going to reach for him in the early second round as well.
Nice. Yeah, no, and I think that's a good placement for him too, especially with the guys ahead of him, and just the way that the draft is probably going to play out. But now we're just going to go ahead and move on to your edge rusher rankings, and right off the bat, I mean, obviously you have Kwity Paye listed at number 1. Can you talk a little bit why you have Kwity Paye listed at number 1 and not Gregory Rousseau? Because a lot of fans that I've spoken to have Gregory Rousseau listed as number 1, but I want to hear your thoughts on Kwity Paye.
Kwity, so here's the thing. I think he's going to be the first edge rusher to come off the board for anybody. He's got the ceiling on this guy is insane. So he's going to be one of those guys that has talents and fundamentals that comes with him, learning from that Michigan pro style defense too. But more so than anything, his ceiling is so high because of his athletic abilities. He can just defeat you in blocks, and he'll line up and just be explosive out of the backfield. He'll just take you out. Like, he's got those skill set and movements that he can just come off the offensive tackle and just get to the quarterbacks right away. He's just one of those guys that's got like real tight alignments. He's got powerful hands, and his strength is just one of those things that just can't be taught. He lines up against anybody. He collapses tackles real quick. He's got the speed. He's got the power. And he's going to come off the edge, like I said, and get to the quarterback, or he can just really take you down and then stuff the runs as well. He's a driven guy. We talked about character a lot. He's one of those guys that's driven to be successful. He's an individual that wants to be a winner. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to work his butt off, and he has the tools to be successful. So he can be in a single gap defense. He can play in 3-4 or 4-3. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to be the most successful in the 4-3, where his hands are in the dirt, rather than being a linebacker. So he's a guy that's going to come off. He's a 4-year player. He's a senior coming out of the Big Ten. So you know that he's got the composure and the leadership style too. So look out for him to come off. I in my opinion, top 15 pick right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And he is a Wolverine too. And so I mean, Kwity does have that great burst for him too. And that's the thing too about this as well, guys, is there's going to be a few edge rushers that come off the board in the first round. And Kwity is definitely one of those guys. Gregory Rousseau is going to be another one. Joseph Asai is going to be another one. So, I mean, as we all know, and Patrick, I'm sure you can agree with me on this, is that's kind of what happens year in and year out with these edge rushers is quite a few of them go in the first round. Obviously, we've seen, more. We've seen some years quite a few will go more than other years. But it's usually about a 3.25 range in the first round, and then of course you've got your GTs that go. It all depends on it's all a numbers game, to be completely honest with you. Obviously, as you know well.
Sure. I mean, it's one of those positions that's like in demand. Like, just like, I mean, I believe like outside a quarterback, it's outside of quarterback and then tackle, I mean, it's edge is one of those positions that's going to be in demand for quite some time, you know?
Sure. No, absolutely. 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 Your next guy that you have ranked number 2 is Joseph Asai, and again ranked above Gregory Rizzo. I feel like you just don't, because I had Gregory Rizzo ranked number 1. That was
Hey,
my rank.
here's the thing. Gregory Rizzo is actually just one behind my ranking. I have Joseph Asai as my 24th guy, and then Gregory Rizzo's 25, so he's coming right up too. So
I was like so shocked. I was so shocked when you sent me your list. I was like, really? You gotta be kidding me. Gregory Rizzo number 3? That's insane. That's insane. But it's really not actually, because all of these guys are 100% phenomenal. So, but go ahead and talk about Joseph Asai. I really do love Joseph Asai. One, I love edge rushers coming out of the University of Texas. One. Secondly, my only concern is his injury history. Go ahead and talk about a little bit about that. What do you think of Joseph Asai, and what's a good comp pick for him?
yeah, so I mean, he's got a long frame, so he's still got room to grow. But his main thing is his natural athleticism. Like I said, he did start most of the game. I believe 2/3 of the games that he played with the Longhorns. He can be one of those guys that can go off between the off ball linebacker and being a defensive end. So I think he's one of those guys that, because of that reasons, because he's been going back and forth between the linebacker and then having his hand in the dirt, he's struggled to actually develop a right amount of talent and skill sets in one position because he had to go back and forth. But his final season as an edge rusher showed tremendous amount of strength and growth. The reason why that I put him in front of Rousseau. So he's an explosive mover. He contains a lot of athleticism. Like I said, his motor is one of those things that's just going to keep him driving. He reminds me a lot of Marcus Golden when it comes to the motor. He's just going to keep coming at you, and he's not going to give up after his first or second move. He's got the intangibles. He's a natural playmaker. He's a turnover creator too. So he's going to go out there and not just go after taking you down, but he's going to go for the ball. He's got powerful hands. He's reactionary, and he's got a lot of tangibles, like I said, to go after the run game. And when it comes to the passing coverage, he's going to be able to drop back and cover too. So, which is a huge benefits for having a guy like this as an edge rusher or the off-ball linebacker to be able to drop back and cover. Saying that, I think he's more suited to be a 3-4 outside linebacker, just because of his length and his frame, which is a little bit lighter than the other guys that we are going to talk about. But he's also capable of putting his hands out in the dirt, like I said, like Pay. But he's definitely more of a 3-4 outside linebacker, but he can play that 5 technique in a 4-man defensive front too.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And honestly, that type of versatility is needed in today's NFL for the defensive end position, because you got so many defense coordinators wanting to run run more disguises, obviously, with the defensive line, and just not being able to do it, honestly, just because they are far and few in between, where they're able to disguise like they're coming for you and then dropping back in coverage. But that's where he could probably excel, I assume, in those types of defenses.
Right, and then he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be one of the most versatile guys out there, like I said. So I mean, we have him listed as the edge, but just like some of the other guys that we talked about yesterday, he's going to be one of those Isaiah Simmons kind of guy where he can play multiple positions. So that really helps teams like the Patriots or even the Miami Dolphins, who do have quite a bit of needs. But like just talking about Asai here, he's going to fit Miami Dolphins like a glove, like in playing in Brian Flores' scheme. So there's going to be a lot of teams that can like really use his skill sets, but his versatility is going to be the one that's going to take him high into the second rounds here.
Sure. And now this leads us to our next guy finally. And I know how much you love Isaiah Simmons, so we're gonna kind of go that route, even with Gregory Rousseau, who does have similar athleticism. Honestly, I just like you, Patrick, I hold Isaiah Simmons in high regard. Um,
Sure.
but let's go ahead and talk about Gregory Rousseau out of the University of Miami.
Right. So here's the thing. Isaiah Simmons, all of us, I mean, myself included, we thought that he's going to have an immediate impact, but that wasn't the case, So these guys that's very versatile, that played multiple positions in college. NFL is different. NFL, you can't just go and just expect to be good at multiple positions. So being a versatile guy in college, that's where your shortcoming becomes when you have a chance to be and perfect a position for 4 years. But when you're versatile, you play 4 or 5 different positions, so you're not going to be spending that much time with your position coach and stuff like that. So you have to give some time for guys like this. But when it comes to Gregory Rousseau, I mean, he's coming from Miami, and then I like to kind of sandwich him with another guy that I'll talk about here too. But he's a specimen too. He's got some good instincts. He's got good visions. He's quick. His main thing is the speed and the burst. He can close in on the quarterback, and then if I had to pick one guy that's going to get the most sacks out of the guys that we just talked about, it'll be Gregory Rousseau. He's got strength. He's active with hands, and he can just shed blocks and get to the quarterback. So he's going to be one of those guys that's going to be leading in sack. He can bull rush. He's got some good rip move, and he's agile too. He's versatile enough to play 3-4 and 4-3-2. His weakness, in my opinion, if I had to pick one, is that he's raw. As you all know, he's a 1-year guy. We've seen him perform at this level just for 1 year for the Miami Hurricanes. Sure. The other guys, we have a little bit more of sample size to go off of, but this guy, Rousseau, is just more of a 1-year guy, and he does need that development. He did have a serious ankle injury too. So just adding that injury concern, having an ankle injury especially is a little bit concerning for an edge rusher. And then one thing that pushed him down in my draft stock is that he did sit out 2020 season. So when you are a 1-year guy who's had only that, not enough time to develop, in my opinion, sit out before your draft year. That's gonna damper your draft stock a little bit, but that doesn't take anything away from his potential. His comp. I mean, I see a lot of like Montez Sweat in him. He's very identical in size. He's got speed and athleticism, but at the end of the day, he's got more potential than anybody on this list. But he's got a good chance to be a double-digit sack guy. It's just a matter of developing him.
Definitely. And he seems like one of those guys. Yeah. And like we talked about, he seems like one of those guys who you can move around the defensive formation, linebacker, defensive line. I wouldn't necessarily put him in at Mike, only maybe in some certain packages. But he does seem like one of those guys. And so the question is this: would he be a good pick at 6 for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I don't think so. I think Gregory Rousseau is one of those guys that can be available for you later on too. It'll definitely be a reach. I believe Rousseau is one of those guys that you can take at 30 or below in the second round. And then here's another guy that I'd like to talk about is Jalen Phillips, who is his teammate at Miami. He was a consensus 5-star recruit. He played in Miami, and then the thing about Phillips is that he is a guy that took advantage of Rousseau sitting out because everything came together for him in 2020 season. He's got the size, the length, the power, the technique, the athleticism, everything that you can ask for. And he's more of a guy, as a transfer, he's more of a guy that's more established and ready to go. So if you're looking for this kind of guy, if you're looking for a skill set that Rousseau has, they're almost identical in sizes. I mean, they're both 6'5". I think Rousseau weighs 260 and then Phillips weighed in 258. So you're looking at two guys that can be 4-3 D end and 3-4 off linebackers. So if you don't get a chance with Rousseau, I mean, you already have Phillips, who has more experience, and he can definitely be that guy for you at the end. But I personally wouldn't take him anywhere in the top 15.
Sure. No, and I completely understand that. I mean, there's just so many other guys ahead of of him that just deserve to go. That just deserve to go in the way that the draft is ordered. And we're talking about need at that point and things like that. But let's go ahead and transfer into that. By the way, because that is one of the things that we do want to go ahead and go over. Let's go ahead and talk about 1 through 10. Obviously, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 1. There's not really that much to talk about here. Obviously, we talked about this
it's one of
yesterday.
those things.
You and I
Yeah,
have talked about it off air. It's Trevor
right. It's
Lawrence,
one of
dude.
those things that we
Like,
talk about. Yeah, like it's taxes and death, and Trevor Lawrence going number one. That's like one of those most obvious things, like write it down, write it in pencil, just put it in. That's it.
yeah, it's like they would have to be insane to not go ahead and go through with Trevor Lawrence at pick 1. But
Right.
that moves
Yeah.
us to pick 2, which is your team, and I want to elaborate this because you mentioned something yesterday that we touched on briefly, which is you're not sure that your Jets are going to go with a quarterback at 2. You're not sure that they're going to go with a quarterback at 2, even though they're drumming up interest for Sam Darnold. What's the deal there, dude?
I don't think it's just me. I think it's just everybody. Jets are one of those teams that we're not sure what they're going to do. I mean, they might very well go quarterback, but like I think from what I've seen, all the indications are saying that they are willing to keep Sam Darnold. Whether that's a smokescreen, who knows? But I truly believe that they are going to take a quarterback at some point. But I think Jets are leaning towards one of those things. If they have a quarterback that they like, just because there are a few. And if they have an indication that someone like Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, if one of those guys, if they don't care which one of those guys they get, and there's a team that's offering you a ransom to come up to 2 to make sure they get that one of those guys, I think Jets are going to be willing to trade back. And then, if they are targeting, like, say, someone like Trey Lance, and if they know they're going to be able to trade back to number 8, go for it, because there are going to be teams that's going to be out there looking for someone like Zach Wilson or Justin Fields of the world. So, I mean, I truly expect the Jets to take a quarterback here, but whether they stay at 2 to do that, that's one thing that I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And my question is this, though. I want to talk about some of the other options that they might have, not necessarily who they would take at 2, but could we possibly see who is their running back right now? Who is the running back for the Jets right now?
I mean, we just ran through the whole Frank Gore era, but I mean,
right.
like, all due respect to Frank Gore, I mean, he did hold down the position really well, but I don't expect him back. I mean, the Jets have Ty Johnson, Josh Adams, a lot of the unknowns. So, I mean, running back's one of those positions that I know that the Jets are going to address. But as we all know, I don't think the running back is a position that's going to be addressed in the first 2 rounds. And then there are some guys that are out there who's a free agent that I think the Jets could go after. But
Right.
Being a team like the Jets who have so many positional needs, I think that's one of the last positions they're going to look to in the depth chart as far as in the draft is concerned.
Yeah, no, and that's a good point. And speaking of Josh Adams, I know Josh Adams very, very well. He was an undrafted rookie for the Philadelphia Eagles and was our leading rusher about 3 years ago, I want to say.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, no, if I have to pick one, I mean, I would put my money on the Jets taking a quarterback. I don't think they stay at 2, though. That's one thing that I'll say. And then, like, the big wild card here is if for some reason I still don't get why Deshaun Watson is considering the Jets as one of his main places that he wants to go. If Deshaun Watson's coming, that changes a lot of things.
It's New York.
It's the Jets, though. It's the Jets. So
yeah, but here's the thing: a guy like Deshaun, probably believes he could turn the franchise around.
Sure.
And credit to Deshaun, and obviously any competitor like Deshaun Watson or a Baker Mayfield or any one of those guys, and obviously the reason why I bring Baker Mayfield is because he's done a phenomenal job bringing that team back Obviously, it hasn't just been him. He needs to play better. Simply put. But still, he does provide a spark. He does provide an energy. I feel like Deshaun Watson could bring that to the Jets, but I do believe that it does have to do with the fact that it is New York. It is a big market, a lot bigger than Houston, and I'm not entirely sold on the fact that there isn't something else going on because, like we talked about yesterday, James Harden, what happened with the Astros, all that jazz, dude. It's just a little weird. Like Russell Westbrook, it's just a little strange. You know what I mean?
I mean, and then I give Deshaun Watson credit too. I mean, Damian Lillard of Portland Blazers, I mean, he's famous for saying that he never wants to join a super team because he wants to prove that he can win without having to do that. So, I mean, I do credit Deshaun Watson as the type of guy that wants to do that and to bring the franchise back. Perennial losers like the Jets, I mean, yeah, what better place to go in the spotlight and turn that team around, the franchise around. So, I mean, that'll be a big one. Like I said, Jets, if as sure as I am of what the Jaguars are going to do at number one, I think the Jets are the complete opposite. If they get Watson, I mean, Hail Mary. I mean, any team in the world should go get Deshaun Watson, except like maybe 5 or 6 teams out there. But if not, I fully expect the Jets to take a quarterback here.
Yeah. Well, no, of course. And I just want to touch on guys like Damian Lillard, the Larry Fitzgeralds of the world, right? And so right. Like when Larry Fitzgerald and Kurt Warner, they took that team to the Super Bowl. Granted, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship, Donovan McNabb to get there. It must have been like butterflies upon butterflies and like elation upon elation in the mind of Larry Fitzgerald, because he probably was like, oh my gosh, I finally did it. I finally took this team where I was homegrown and finally got them to the mountaintop. And he's still there. I mean, that's that. I mean, there's no wide receiver in the NFL like Larry Fitzgerald. There's just not.
Right. I mean, it's a testament to his character and who he is as a person too.
Yeah. Exactly. And honestly, in a perfect world, each NFL player would be like Larry Fitzgerald.
Sure.
but that just makes Larry.
Larry legend. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and move on to number 3, Miami Dolphins. I see them going a few different options here. I could see them going with a playmaker. I know that they've been fielding trade calls for Devontae Parker for the longest time. I'm not saying they're going to take a wide receiver here as high as 3. I think that would be a little too high. But I could see them taking a Penei Sewell. I could see them, I could see them going a defender here too with the trade of Minkah Fitzpatrick. Not saying that they would go safety, but they probably could use a defensive playmaker there. Maybe. What do you think, Patrick?
I honestly think there's only 2 options here for the Dolphins, with the exception of trade. I mean, speaking of Houston, what a trade, right? I mean, this is Houston's pick. I mean, for Miami to end up here because of that after the successful season, and they just get a chance to add to that. I agree with you. One of those picks is Penei Sewell. Just having that franchise tackle to protect Tua definitely is a route that I would go. And then here's one part that I might disagree with you. This is where I am willing to take a chance on a guy like Devontae Smith. The guy from Alabama, just his overall body of work, and then just his fit, the high-end weapon to Tua Tagovailoa. To have that guy, I mean, Devontae Smith might be a home run pick here. But if I were to put a money on it, it'd be one of those 2 guys. It'll be Sewell or Devontae Smith here.
Yeah, no, good point. And honestly, I got to be honest with you. In my initial mock draft, I had them taking Devontae Smith at 3. But in my head, I was second guessing it. And reasons for that is just the simple fact that it is kind of, we haven't seen it happen probably since Julio. And I think Julio was taken at 6, was he not? Wasn't Julio taken at 6?
Julio was, I believe it's 6. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I can't remember. I can't remember a wide receiver being taken higher since Julio.
Right. I
Um,
I think here's the thing though. I think we are in a place where we are undervaluing wide receivers too. The different kind of difference maker that they can be. I mean, you saw it. I mean, like it's kind of like running backs. You can pick wide receiver late in the rounds, and then they could turn out to be a great contributor. Like we saw Chase Claypool get picked. We saw Brendan Ayuk get picked. Jalen Rager. All those guys were late round picks that turned into a great contributor. So, but I mean,
did you say Jalen
imagine?
Reagor?
Yeah,
Oh god.
imagine though if you are able to pick some a difference maker like that at number
Yeah.
3 to go with the Tua Tagovailoa, I think you have to take that chance.
Yeah, no, and I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm waiting for Jalen Reagor to impress me. Honestly, I was more impressed with Quez Watkins out of the 3 wide receivers that they
He's
took in the
got he's
draft.
got good skill sets.
No, I know. And granted, I think he will end up being worth it at the end of the day. I blame a lot. I blame a lot of the production of the wide receivers on Doug Peterson and whatever the hell that they put out there last season. And I think that Nick Sirianni, one obviously we know the staff is young as all hell, and that's reason for cause. That's cause for pause. But I am excited about the potential and just the comparison and contrast that each of the different staff members do bring to the Philadelphia Eagles. Just because they do bring something a little bit different. Obviously, we have the passing game coordinator Kevin Patullo that's very well versed in the RPO, and so I think that's only going to help. There's a lot that was brought in to help Carson Wentz, but the fact that Carson's not going to be there, I think it's going to be incredible for Jalen Hurts, and it makes me really excited. But yes, Devontae Smith at 3, I love Devontae Smith at 3. But here's the thing, though. With guys like Devontae Smith coming out of college, and this isn't to take anything away from Devontae Smith, because I know what he's done. I've seen this. I've seen the stuff that he's done. I do shy away from speedsters coming out of the out of college into the NFL, and I understand that he's much more than a speedster. He's a
He's a
phenomenal
much
route.
more, yeah. Mhm.
He's got great awareness. He's great at the top of his routes. He's great on his cutback. He's just a phenomenal route runner. He's a phenomenal all around wide receiver.
Right, and his run after catch ability is ridiculous. He's
Yeah.
when you put a guy that has that kind of hands, that can run that route and have that run after catch ability. I mean, that's a guy that you want on your team.
Right, exactly. And the only thing is I personally I shy away from speedsters, and I think that is unfortunate because it has nothing to do with Devontae Smith. It has everything to do with it has everything to do with any of the speedsters outside of Hollywood Brown or outside of Brandon Cooks that have been taken. The Cleveland Browns. Who did they take? There was a wide Corey something or other in the first round, and he was a speedster that was similar to a Brandon Cooks. There's quite a few of them that were phenomenal speedsters coming out of college that just didn't pan out, and so it has nothing to do with Devontae Smith, but it is my one subconscious fear about
Right.
them, and it's not like they all can be Deshaun Jackson, and honestly, Deshaun Jackson was not the best route runner coming out of college. And I'm not saying Devontae Smith isn't going to be better than Deshaun Jackson. There's clearly that possibility because of his production and the way that he has polished his game as he's continued to get better there at Alabama, and
Right, and I think that's the thing, though. I think I agree with you when you're talking about speedsters, but I think when it comes to Devontae Smith, it's totally different. I don't think he's just a speedster. I think he's an excellent, like I said, route runner first, with great hands and then tremendous running after catchability, who happens to have the speed too. So I think he's a little bit of a different mold rather than just a straight speedster. I think his speed really plays well into this. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think Devontae Smith is one of those guys that's going to come out there and just compete for the best receiver in the game kind of thing, year in and year out.
So what would your player comp be? Because for me, what I would say is I would say this as an example. For Jeremy Maclin coming out of college, we compared him to Reggie Wayne, and we weren't far off. I mean, obviously, Jeremy Maclin had the degenerative knee, and that didn't help him going forward. But what would you give? What would you give Devontae Smith?
He reminds me a lot of Marvin Harrison. Talking about great Colts receivers, I do see a lot of Marvin Harrison whenever I like study him. He's leaner, but he's, like I said, his route running, his excellent hand, and then just the guy for a guy that's really lean. He's got good toughness too. So
Sure.
he's gonna be as smooth as Marvin Harrison was in his prime. And then I think that here's a crazy part, though. I think Smith actually gets more points from me than Marvin Harrison, and that's where his physicality comes in. I'm not expecting Devontae Smith to be a Pro Bowl Marvin Harrison right away, but when he puts it all together, I think Marvin Harrison's a good comp for him.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I actually really like that. I really like that comp. And talking about offenses that were just tough to defend. I mean, like we talked about yesterday, the Rams offense with Isaac Bruce and Joe Horn, Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Joseph Adai, those and those guys. I mean, insane. It was just insane. I mean, mainly it was insane and tough to defend just because it was Peyton Manning back there. But I mean, it did not make it any easier with the likes of a Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and Joseph Adai to go along with that. And who was their running back before that? Because Joseph Adai came along later.
Which team?
The Colts.
Wasn't it Edgerrin James?
It was Edgerrin James. That's right. It was Edgerrin James.
Yeah,
it was difficult. No, yeah,
he came in. He came and played for the Cardinals for a few years too. So
I remember. That leads us to number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, in my opinion, there's a couple options that the Atlanta Falcons have. We touched on it a little bit yesterday, Patrick. Quarterback. Honestly, I had them in my mock. I had them, and we're gonna do a mock later as the weeks go on. But I did have them in my personal mock. I did have them replacing Matt Ryan here, and that's certainly an option that they can go with. So that is one of the options that I will talk about. I could see a Justin Fields going right here. Or I even said Trey Lance, but I think I rate Justin Fields over Trey Lance. The other thing too is, and I could see them even trying to replace a Julio here. I don't know if they will. It might be a little too high. It depends on what the Dolphins do at 3, honestly. But I mean, we've got 2 top wide receivers that could be gone. And I wouldn't rate Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith too far apart, in my opinion. But they also could go defender here too, because it seems like every year they just have a difficult time with that defense, and I think they need to get bigger. I think that they have their defense is it's consisted of too many small fast guys. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty strongly here at 4 that the Falcons are going to take the quarterback. In no matter what situation, I see 3 quarterbacks being taken in the first 4, with the exception of the Miami Dolphins, unless they trade back. I don't know if the teams are necessarily going to stay this way. Jets picking 2 and the Falcons picking 4. But I do feel pretty strongly that Zach Wilson and Justin Fields are going to go 2 and 4 here. with the Falcons, I mean, I do see like you said, I do see that there's a couple different options. I mean, they could pick a weapon here, for Matt Ryan if they want to write it out that way one more time. I mean, I know they like Kyle Pitts from Florida too, so they might trade back here, so that the quarterback can be taken for another team, and then like get Kyle Pitts later on. I do see them being able to take Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase here too. I only see offense as an option here, this high for them, but I'm leaning towards quarterback here, and I feel pretty strongly about that.
Yeah, no, and no, good point. And I do too. I do too, honestly. And I think Justin Fields would be a great pick for them. But honestly, it all depends on who they feel is that second quarterback worth taking off the board. And obviously, when a GM gets a quarterback in their head, it doesn't really matter at that point who is ranked one or two.
Right. I mean,
If
yeah. So this is a fun. Exactly, and this is a fun part about drafts too, is because you just never know. Like if
Sure.
if the Falcons are set on getting Zach Wilson, and if they know that the Jets are considering Wilson at 2, and if Jets are not sure about it, and if Falcons know that there's other teams like the Panthers who's willing to move up to take Wilson, who knows? They might move up to 2, and then Jets trade back down to 4, and they get their guy with Justin Fields here. So I mean, there's a lot of moving possibilities here, and then if the Falcons know that their guy is like Trey Lance, for example, I mean, they can easily move back with the Panthers and then just pick up more assets along the way. So it just totally depends on who they're looking for. But one thing that I know for sure is that I feel pretty strongly about is the Jets and the Falcons are going to end up with their quarterbacks here. I'm just not exactly sure where.
Yeah, no, exactly. That leads us to number 5, honestly, and this is a big one. Honestly, because the Bengals
Yeah.
need an offensive lineman. They need an
Mhm.
they need an edge rusher. There's
And this
quite
is
a few
one,
things.
yeah, and this is one place
Go
that they're
ahead.
not going to take a quarterback.
Exactly. Now they do again. This is the third team in a row. They do need a wide receiver, and I'm not saying the Falcons need one, but they are probably going to look to replace Julio soon. But this is one of those guys, outside of Tyler Boyd, they probably could look to add some playmakers for Joe Burrow,
Yep.
and so that's one of their options that they could go. But if Devontae Smith is taken by 3 at 3 by the Dolphins, Penei Sewell still on the board. This is my pick for them. Penei Sewell at 5 for the Bengals would be perfect
Absolutely.
because he needs an offensive. They went ahead and addressed the offensive tackle position last year when they took Joe Burrow. But they do need another offensive tackle for him so that he can be protected. Make sure that he's got the protection he needs so that he can have the long-term success there in Cincinnati. So I would say, and Penei Sewell, as you and I both know, is going to be a phenomenal offensive lineman. He is just one of those pick, plug and play, stalwart offensive tackles. That's going to be a stellar offensive tackle for 10 plus years, probably perennial Pro Bowler. And this would be the perfect pick for them, in my opinion. What do you think?
Absolutely. I only see 2 options for the Bengals here too, and they're in a great spot with Joe Burrow. I would give him a weapon. If Devontae Adams is taken, I think it makes a pick pretty easy. I would take either Penei Sewell, or if they are willing to go a playmaker route, Jamar Chase here would make a lot of sense as well. Sewell he's one of my favorite guys. I mean, I think he's easily top 3 prospects here. Right, he might be number 2 after Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion. He's one of those guys we're going to talk about him later too, but he's, like I said, plug and play. I think he's better prospect for sure than Becton or Wars from last year. I think he's up there with Jedrick Wills or even Andrew Thomas. I think he's better than those guys too. So this would be a great option to give Joe Burrow protection here. But I think Jamar Chase is also an option. you can never have enough playmakers, and I think that's what Joe Burrow really lacked from taking him to another level. Jamar Chase is going to be a one of those guys. I mean, he's speedster, like I said, but I think at the same time, I see a good comp in him as being like an Amari Cooper kind of guy, and then just being able to have that kind of guy in that as in the back pocket for Joe Burrow. I think that's a good option too. So I see either one of the receivers or the tackle here for sure for the Bengals.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's a great point. That's a great point that you made. And I don't yeah, no, I just I think it's smart for them to go the safe route here. And as I talked about, I just think, yeah, Penny Sewell, it would just be an absolute home run. So what we're going to go ahead and do before we go through 6 through 10, the last 5 of the 1 through 10 segment here, we are just going to go ahead and take a break. But I do just want to go ahead and remind you guys, this is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. I am live with Patrick J, and we are doing the 1 through 10 draft pick breakdown. And don't forget, guys, you can go to streamlabs.com/DB Talking Now /tip to show your loving support and donate anything. Minimum of $1 would absolutely help me a ton. And guys, that those donations are recycled and they're redistributed into the stream so I can bring you guys better content. And we also have a new merch store that is up, and that is streamlabs.com/DB Talking Now /merch. We got quite a few things that you can pull from. They are a few basic items, but it is pretty freaking cool. There's some t-shirts, there's some tank tops, there's some sweaters, there's even a raincoat for those who live in more rainy weather. Patrick and I live in Arizona, so it doesn't rain much here, but that raincoat does have extra pockets. So in case you're one of those people who love to carry handy dandy, accessories, it is good for that. But I do expect you guys to rep some merch, especially my subscribers, and I know I got my package on the way, so it's going to be quite awesome. We also have some face covers for the COVID, so make sure that you stay safe and healthy. But we will be back. We will be taking about a 30-second break. One love. I hope everybody is having a happy Sunday, and we'll be going through pick 6 through 10 when we come back. Thank you. All right, welcome, guys. This is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. I am live here with Patrick J as we go through break down the picks 1 through 10 of the NFL draft. So far, we've done 1 through 5, and now we are about to do 6 through 10. So let's go ahead and get into it. We are now at pick number 6, the Philadelphia Eagles. Patrick, are you with me, my man?
I am.
Awesome. Now, there's quite a few options that we can go with pick number 6, and quarterback is one of them. But it is probably the least likely one. Look, wide receiver is one, linebacker is another, cornerback is another, defensive line is even another one, even though I don't necessarily see that as a need. Edge rusher is another one. I don't see that as a possibility. But let's go through and talk about even cornerback. But let's talk about the top needs. I would say shoring up the secondary. I would say cornerback. I would say wide receiver. And
There's a lot of needs for the Eagles.
there's a lot of needs. I can't jock them down. Here's the one thing I do want to start off though with this pick with this. Fans are falling in love with Kyle Pitts. They're falling in love with Kyle Pitts. And the one thing that we know is this: Kyle Pitts is a guy you can move all around the formation. Secondly, Nick Sirianni comes from Frank Reich, and Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni loved to run the twin tight end sets there in Indianapolis. He ran it here when we had Zach Ertz and Trey Burton before we drafted Dallas Goedert. Now he was already in Indy once we drafted Dallas Goedert, but that's not really the point. The point is this: is they love to use multiple tight ends, and that's why this would be a really, really good pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, is to take Kyle Pitts here. And one, our new quarterbacks coach has ties to Kyle Pitts as well, Brian Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator there at Florida State.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Pitts is one of those guys. I mean, he's a generational guy too. I mean, he can come out there and play. Like I said, he's going to be one of those guys that's always going to be fearful, lining up against the other guys, like in the slot and everything. But Eagles are one of those teams that I'm not sure about. I felt pretty confident about the first 5 teams and what they're going to do. Eagles are one that I am just 100% not sure about. Because they have so many needs, because there are so many different options that they can go with. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be a receiver here. It could be a tackle here if Penei Sewell is available. And then quarterback might definitely be an option here too. So depending on which route that they go to, I mean, there are definitely different things that I think I can definitely see Eagles doing. Eagles are one team I believe can even take someone like Micah Parsons or one of the cornerbacks that we talked about here. So, I mean, if a lot of options, abundance of options here. So, so cornerbacks possibility, tackles a possibility, receivers a possibility. I mean, having a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, I mean, it gives you a lot of options. I mean, you did find your quarterback of the future, so you can definitely plug in guys like Jamar Chase, or even, you can get Kyle Pitts here, and you can do a lot of things.
All right, not sure what exactly happened there, but as Patrick was saying, Patrick, are you with us?
You. Yeah, I think we lost you for a sec. Can you hear me?
So I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe we're having some connection issues, but as Patrick was saying, yeah, there's so many options for the Philadelphia Eagles to go here at 6, and we're not quite sure what they will do, but they do have so many different areas of need, and one of them is cornerback, one of them is linebacker, and one of them is wide receiver, and honestly, the fact of the matter is the fans are falling in love with Kyle Pitts. They are falling in love with Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts is one of those guys who's going to be a generational talent.
He's a tight end that I see going top 10.
And the potential to become a a Travis Kelsey, a Darren Waller of the worlds, and both Travis Kelsey is a phenomenal tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, as we all know. Darren Waller is a phenomenal tight end for the Oakland Raiders, as we all know. But it's a matter of it's a matter of who will they take. Um, some fans honestly believe that it should be cornerback here, and with cornerback it could be Patrick Surtain or it could be Caleb Farley. Or with wide receiver it could be Jamar Chase. With the way that our board is kind of playing out here, with Devontae Smith taken at 3 by the Dolphins, Jamar Chase could be a perfect pick here. And with that said, I don't think I'm going to put him there, though. I think what I'm going to do is I am going to put a Kyle Pitts at 6 for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Howie Roseman is likely to make a move like that. Instead of doing the safe thing, because Howie Roseman never does the safe thing. He never goes after the position that he should be going after, and that is one of the issues with Howie Roseman. So, and that's perfectly fine, just as long as he gets the name. That's what we need. That's what the Philadelphia Eagles need this year. We need Howie Roseman to make sure that he goes after the name. So that's going to be the big thing. All right. Hopefully Patrick is with us now. Patrick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I have no
I don't know
idea
what happened. It got kicked me out.
Well, I kicked you out, but because we were having some technical difficulties, I had to reset the thing. But so we were talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, and I kind of left it off with, I would love for Patrick Surtain to be the pick here, but I just don't see Howie Roseman doing what he's supposed to be doing because he never does. And so I see him listening to some of the coaches this year and going with Kyle Pitts. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if any of what I said before was heard, but I mean, I think Eagles are one of those teams that are hard to find. I mean, hard to pick out here because they do have so many needs. I think any of the positions that we just mentioned, if Penei Sewell is available, I mean, that would be a phenomenal pick. If they go Jamar Chase or if Devontae Smith is available here, just giving Jalen Hurts or anybody that's kind of weapons is going to be a huge, tremendous upside. Kyle Pitts, huge pick. I mean, he can line up against anybody, and then again, it's giving Hurts that weapon that he needs. And who knows if Jalen Hurts is not lining up behind center, if you guys go with different quarterback here, if say like Zach Wilson falls or just Justin Fields is available, or if they want to go with Trey Lance. I mean, I see the Eagles being able to go quarterback here. I mean, it kind of hurts your pride to pick receiver twice in a row in the first round, but I can definitely see that as an option. But I mean, in my humble opinion, I do hope that the Eagles go defense route. I mean, I can see Micah Parsons being here. I can see Farley or Surtain being an option here too. So if it were me in a perfect world, I would take Penei Sewell or one of the defensive guys here. But I mean, Eagles are a wild card for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you make a good point there. If Penei Sewell is there, they will go Penei Sewell. I have no doubt in my mind. Because Howie Roseman loves to build through the lines, and he knows that is the best. That is the foundation for a successful team is building through the lines. And for a guy like we talked about, a guy who is going to be a stalwart for years to come, you just don't pass up on that opportunity if it presents itself, because we have an aging Lane Johnson, and at left tackle I do not expect Jason Peters to be back. I don't think they should have brought him back in the first place. But Halapuli, no, not Vaitai, Jordan Mailata, did did fairly well in the absence of Jason Peters this past year. So I would love to see more from Jordan Mailata. And I think that he deserves the ability to start. But then again, having Penny Sewell, you could slide him in at Lane Johnson, because Lane Johnson is going to get above the 30 mark, and he is so he is getting up there. But Penny Sewell could also replace Jordan Mailata and just do a much better job. But about them and their pride and the wide receiver, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. Like, I think that they are set on resetting, like I mentioned earlier, and I think that they are acknowledging that they screwed up. And here's the thing. If it came down to a Jamar Chase or somebody else that you could possibly wait for a little bit, maybe like a Kyle Pitts, I would take Jamar Chase, honestly. What would you say? Would you take Jamar Chase over Kyle Pitts? I believe we lost Patrick again, but that's okay. All right, Patrick, you here?
Yeah, I am. What's going on?
All right. I have no idea what happened there. But would you take Jamar Chase over Kyle Pitts if those are the only options there at 6 for them?
Personally, I think Kyle Pitts is a better prospect, but for the Eagles, I think I would be better off selecting Jamar Chase. It's a tricky proposition. I don't think you're going to go wrong either way, but for me, I would take Jamar Chase or even Devontae Smith if he's available over Kyle Pitts.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, and I agree with you. That moves on to pick number 7, the Detroit Lions. Who do you got? What are their options? What do you think the Lions do at pick 7?
The Lions are actually simple. It just totally depends on how the field plays out, because I thought the Lions are for sure going to take a quarterback, but obviously with what happened, they don't have to do that anymore. So now that they have Jared Goff in the fold, they can either trade back for a team that still wants to move up and get a quarterback here, because, the Lions don't necessarily have to pick anyone here if they choose not to. But this is where I see another offensive weapon come out. If Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, or Kyle Pitts, if any of them's available at this point, that's one of the guys that they're going to take.
Nice. I like it. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the Panthers at 8. What do you see them doing here? I see them taking a quarterback, maybe Trey Lance.
Yes, sir.
I think that's their only route. I honestly think that's their only route.
Yeah, only route. They're going to take a quarterback here no matter what. They're gonna jump over Joy if they have any Zach Wilson or like Justin Fields available here. And I think Panthers are one team that's Panthers and Broncos are one of those teams I believe have motivations to trade up to get one of those guys. But if they do stay at number 8, I think Trey Lance is where they're going to go with.
Now, one thing, and you bring up a great talking point, Patrick. I want you to talk about Zach Wilson a little bit. Not everybody is completely familiar with Zach Wilson. I understand. He's a fairly good prospect, and I believe he stands at 6'1", 220. Is that right?
Zach Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he stands pretty I don't exactly know. Let me look it up real quick. But yeah, Zach Wilson is one of those guys that's like established. He's got some poise and all that good stuff coming for him too. So he stands 6'3", 210, man.
6'3", 210. Okay, so he's a bit on the lighter side, but he is also a bit of he's also got that mobility to him too, correct?
Absolutely. He's got that good mobility to him. He's got a decent arm strength, and he's an intelligent guy. He's a smart quarterback. He does come with reported off the field issue and injury issues, but as far as his skill set's concerned, he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that's more of a project, in my opinion. Justin Fields is more established between the two, but Zach Wilson is going to come in there with good legs. He's going to run around. He's got good arm strength. He's got good accuracy. He does have concerns, like I said, when it comes to injury issues, and he has only played a season of full football. But when it comes to his talent, it's arguably one of the best ceilings besides Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. So Zach Wilson does have everything going for him to develop into a good quarterback, but he's not a guy that I see as coming in and playing right away. So like a team like the Falcons, I mean, I see a better option for him to go to the Falcons, where they still have Matt Ryan's of the world to kind of play the number one quarterback slot rather than the team like Panthers. But Zach Wilson's for sure one of those guys that has a higher ceiling than some of these guys here.
Sure, absolutely, and I do think that he would be a solid pick for the Panthers there at 8. And I mean, even though he is kind of more of a project guy than a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance, he would still be a solid pick there.
Yep, and then Trey Lance too. Trey Lance has a good upside too, if that's who they end up with. I mean, if all three quarterbacks that are ranked higher than him does go there, if Trey Lance hits his full potential, I mean, he might be the best quarterback out of the bunch. You know, he's 6'4", 226. I mean, you guys know, coming from North Dakota State too, for sure.
To talk a little bit about that, yes, and that's look, yes, Trey Lance comes from North Dakota State, like Carson Wentz. It's a smaller school. It's getting there though. It is.
For
they
sure.
are increasing their prestige quite a bit because they just won't stop winning. But yes, they are in a smaller conference. But that does propose a good question. Is Trey Lance is 6'4", 226, has first-round talent, top 10 talent, but so did Carson Wentz. But there were quite a few when Carson Wentz came out that weren't completely sold, and mainly because of the fact that he didn't have a lot of games behind him because of the injuries that he had at North Dakota State. What would you say about Trey Lance compared to Carson Wentz, and does one have more potential over the other? Do you like one more over the other? And are there similar risk factors involved? Should a team be worried about Trey Lance as much as they were with Carson coming out of college? Because there were quite a few teams.
Yeah, I mean, if you honestly look at them, they're pretty similar when it comes to this. I mean, if Trey Lance is one of those quarterbacks that's got everything going for him, he's got all kinds of skill sets. He's got the powerful arm. He's fast. He can throw into tight windows. His arm strength is probably one of the better ones out of all these quarterbacks. He can throw good deep ball, and his precision on those deep balls are impressive. I mean, like that's something you can't necessarily say about Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. He's aggressive. He throws well in the short, quick passing games too. He's got the poise. He stays calm under pressure. He's a good athlete. He's mobile, and he's honestly a dual threat quarterback. He's got real good speed, and he avoids turnovers in general. And he's got a huge upside as a dynamic runner too. Where his weakness comes in is some of the stuff that you mentioned about Wentz. It's pretty similar. He's raw. He lacks a lot of experience. And whenever you watch his games, I mean, even from our vantage point as a viewer, you can kind of see who his primary read is. So on the field, you can kind of pick off who he's looking into. He doesn't necessarily go to his second or third option. He just kind of locks in on his primary read. And then just sometimes his ability to run can be his downfall because he doesn't necessarily let the plays fall into place. He kind of just takes off running before everything kind of develops in the first place. So he does have some weaknesses. If you were to give me Carson Wentz coming out of North Dakota State and Trey Lance, I would take Carson Wentz if they were to come out at the same time. But I believe Trey Lance actually has a higher ceiling. as opposed to Carson Wentz having a higher floor. So I think Carson Wentz was a little bit more of a safer bet than Trey Lance, as weird as it sounds. But I believe if Trey Lance puts everything together, Trey Lance might very well be a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the one thing I do want to ask you too is, just because we're talking about quarterbacks, and I love that the fact that the Panthers sparked this conversation, because it is one that is heavily revolved that is heavily revolving around the top 10 in this draft, and kind of, well, the entire first round pretty much, but pretty much the top 10, because obviously there's Jaguars, there's Jets, there's the Falcons, there's the Eagles who could go that route, there are the Panthers, there are the Broncos, and we're going to get to them next. But Kyle Trask, University of Florida, ties to Brian Johnson, as we talked about, who is the new quarterbacks coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you feel about Kyle Trask? Where do you think he falls within those guys? I understand you and I both have him rated or ranked after the guys that we've listed so far. But he should still be a guy worth consideration in the first round. The one thing that does scare me is he started off his season this year not having a great one. Brian Johnson did help him kind of revive his season. Patrick, tell me what you think about Kyle Trask. What do you see? For me, from what I've seen him play, he reminds me of Carson Wentz. The one thing I do not like about Kyle Trask is he just does have a little bit of a slow delivery. I do not like that. He does put a little bit too much air on his throws sometimes. I don't like that. But I do possibly see him going late first, early second. Tell me how you feel about him.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Trask is one of those guys. I mean, I'll start right off the bat. I do potentially see up to 5 or 6 quarterbacks being taken in the first round. And if there is one guy that's going to fall, it's Kyle Trask. So the 4 guys that we just mentioned, and then Mac Jones from Alabama, I do have ranked higher than Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask he has that serious pocket passing ability. So if you were to tell me that there's one guy besides Trevor Lawrence that has a true pocket passing ability, I believe that's going to be Kyle Trask. He's very accurate in terms of like ball placement. His timing, his field vision is really good, and decision making is very good as well. I mean, he has more experience than a lot of these 1-year guys, and then just being able to play with Kyle Pitts too. I mean, that has to be a huge advantage as well. What sets apart Kyle Trask as opposed to his weaknesses is his mobility. So when we talked about how he was impressive as a pocket passer, obviously there comes weaknesses, which is his mobility. So I think that's why he had to develop that good pocket awareness by default almost. And then I think that's his biggest strength as well as his biggest weakness. He's almost like a statue. He just kind of stands there. So if the pocket collapses, instead of being able to run and escape from pressure, he's one of those guys that kind of just stands there and then it kind of takes a hit. So, I mean, there's always injury concerns when it comes to that kind of thing. But when it comes to being a traditional pocket passing quarterback, I mean, this is a guy that you're looking at. He doesn't have necessarily as good of a ceiling as the other guys that we just talked about, but Kyle Trask definitely has a place in this NFL, and I believe he, with the right tutelage, I think he can be one starting quarterback at some point. I don't see him stepping into that role right away, but he's definitely one of the better passers in this draft class, and then a lot of these guys, they have mobility. They're very agile. They're very good quarterback, and they can escape from pockets. And then the Kyle Trask is not like that. But I mean, there is, I mean, in the ever changing world of the NFL, I mean, there is a place for someone like Kyle Trask, and he is a bigger guy. He stands 6'5", so he does have a good vision too. So.
Agreed. Yeah, no, and that was one of the things that scared me too, is he just doesn't, he moves up in the pocket really well, but he doesn't have a lot of mobility to get outside and escape of the pocket. So, but that leads us over to the Broncos, who we both know need a quarterback because they were not sold on Drew Lock, and and Drew Lock just didn't come in and impress. Now, this could be another failed attempt for John Elway to get a quarterback, because as we've already talked about the possibility of uh, of 3 to 4 quarterbacks going, and the only guy that I can possibly sense going here is Mac Jones, and this is where this conversation gets interesting, because at that point, I don't think Mac Jones is worth number 9. I just don't see it.
No, yeah,
Um, and this is where I see, well, one, they need to get the quarterback position figured out. John Elway continues to fail to get the quarterback position rectified, and he has not been able to do it. They tried to do it with Tim Tebow. They tried to do it with what was it, Sean Manian, I think his name was, something or other. I can't remember. They tried to do it with Drew. They tried to do it with Drew Lock. There's been a ton of guys who have come in there since John Elway, including Peyton Manning. Now, granted, they've been failing since Peyton Manning retired, to bring in another quarterback to succeed Peyton Manning, and they just have not been able to do it. But that is my point. If it comes to Mac Jones is the only quarterback, is the next top ranked quarterback left on the board at 9, they have to trade for one, Patrick. They have to trade for one, whether it's Deshaun Watson or whether it's Carson Wentz or whether it's Russell Wilson. And we're not even going to go there because I don't think he's going to be traded.
right.
It's I think Sam Darnold would be a waste, and I don't see him being worth number 9. I do see them possibly making the move for Carson Wentz with the 9th overall pick. I think it would be other added on compensation from the Eagles to get it, but I see John Elway being in desperation. I see the entire Broncos organization being in desperation mode to obtain that franchise guy. And so I do see that happening. Now that leads us to the fact that there were rumors that the Broncos were one of the latest teams to make a trade offer, and KJ wide receiver KJ Hamler was involved in that trade. Now, whether or not that was true or not, we're not sure, but we know that the Broncos are interested. Now, knowing Howie Roseman and him being kind of a little, overzealous, he probably wanted the number 9 pick because
Here's a thing that I'll tell you right away. Eagles are not going to get number 9 pick for.
I know you don't need to tell me that. No, I understand.
So, yeah. So I think I agree with you.
Make sure that they get their quarterback figured out. That's my point.
Right. I completely agree with you. I think they're going to have someone under the center, but that's not Drew Lock. And Carson Wentz does make a lot of sense for them. If anything, I think if Carson Wentz does get involved in this, I mean, like, I don't know. And then that opens up an avenue for the Broncos to like go a different route here. I think Broncos are one of those teams that's going to look to trade up. So, I mean, this is where I was kind of talking about teams like the Jets who don't necessarily – I don't know if they stick with Sam Darnold or if they get someone else. I mean, like, they could potentially like move back down to number 9 and let the Broncos pick Justin Fields or Zach Wilson at number 2. The Broncos could potentially trade up with the Falcons if they want to, or the Bengals, or even the Eagles. I mean, I see if the Eagles are set on taking – if they don't have the guy that they want, and if the Eagles are willing to take Kyle Pitts, I mean, Eagles can definitely move back to number 9 and take Kyle Pitts and then pick up some assets along the way too. So I do see the Broncos getting a quarterback at some point, whether it's via trade or free agency or trading up, but it's not going to be at the number 9 position because all the guys that we just talked about are going to be gone. And then Mac Jones and Kyle Trask is not someone they will take at number 9. Will they trade back to get one of those guys? Possible. But if they stay at number 9 here, I think the best viable option for them is to go defense route. Edge rusher like Jalen Phillips or Rousseau, or even Micah Parsons, getting a stud like that at number 9 would be an option, or even Caleb Farley, because they did just release AJ I believe, not too long ago. So to have that lockdown corner would be an ideal fit here too. So I mean, there's a lot of options. Broncos, I think they shore up their defense if they stay here, but I totally agree with you. They are going to address that quarterback position here soon.
I will tell you this, just out of the mindset of Eagles fan, is trading back to 9 would cause a lot of fear and a lot of panic. Reason why is the team behind the Eagles if they were to trade back to 9, and that would be the Dallas Cowboys at 10. Reason being, if they traded back to 9 to take Kyle Pitts, look, we just saw Jason Witten retire for the second time. Cowboys could easily jump the Eagles. And dude, like, this is the mindset of the NFC East. GMs in the NFC East will do this. We saw it with the Eagles back in 2018. We jumped the Dallas Cowboys specifically to take Dallas Goedert from the Dallas Cowboys. And I could see the Dallas Cowboys taking Kyle Pitts. I could see the Dallas Cowboys taking Kyle Pitts, and I could see them jumping the Philadelphia Eagles at 9 if the Eagles were to trade back to 9 to do it. And so it would cause a lot of fear. It would cause a lot of panic. And honestly, I think it's the last thing that the Eagles fans want our GM to do. Howie Roseman needs to have a perfect offseason. He really does. And even though while I agree with the philosophy and they need to add more picks, I agree with that completely. But I think it's best for them to stay put and just go and grab the guy.
We're gonna do the whole mock draft later on, right?
Of course.
At some
yeah,
point.
no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Here's the thing. I am willing to put my money that Eagles. I do agree with you. They are gonna stay at 6, and I guarantee you they're gonna take a wide receiver or Penei Sewell. I think that's a route that they go. Just putting it out there to the world. I think that's just what it is. I think you're gonna see either Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith lining up for Jalen Hurts.
And that would be amazing. And I would be totally stoked about that. And I hope so. I hope it's Devontae Smith. I hope it's Devontae Smith or Penei Sewell. But I gotta be honest with you. I'm more excited about the idea of having a dynamic playmaker. But let's go ahead and move. Let's go ahead and move to 10 because
our beloved Cowboys.
They're just revolving. Directly. So, yeah, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys 10. I mean, they have many, many, many ways to go. Jason Witten retired. Look, they have not committed to Dak Prescott. I know that their 2021 hype video did not include Dak Prescott. There's.
Can I say something here for the Cowboys?
Sure.
I think the Cowboys are actually in a very enviable position because they can just kind of sit back and, like you said, just kind of let the board play out. Because, I mean, one of those guys that we just talked about, because there are so many teams going after the quarterbacks, all the guys that we talked about, Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Kyle Pitts, Caleb Farley, one of those studs are going to fall to the Cowboys, and they can just easily just sit back and just take whoever's left there.
I agree. No, and that's the thing too, is I think that they want to shore up that secondary, even more so because once again we saw that defense not play up to standard,
right.
And I think that that's one of the things that they're going to want to do. They're going to want to add a Patrick Surtain or a Caleb Farley, or maybe even they don't necessarily need a Micah Parsons, but they might want to. But I could definitely see Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley going with the Cowboys there at 10.
Right.
So, which scares me, but I agree with you. They could honestly. There's a lot of different directions that they could go. But what do you think about them not including Dak Prescott in their 2021 hype video?
I mean, that's bizarre. That's bizarre. I mean, I still believe Dak Prescott is their quarterback. I mean, it's hard to say that he's not. But I mean, he's due for an extension, and I believe he deserves that extension. I mean, we saw what happened to the Cowboys after Dak Prescott went down. They just weren't the same. So that that kind of tells you how important he is to the team itself. But yeah, it's a weird move for the team. It's a weird move for the whole organization. But I mean, if who knows? But I mean, I believe that Dak Prescott showed that he deserves it, and then I think it showed even more when he wasn't on the field that he deserves that extension.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I wonder if they're thinking of trying to make a move for Deshaun Watson.
Would that be crazy? Dak Prescott for Deshaun Watson?
I would not like that. I can tell you that for sure. Well, anyway, this is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles. I am live here with Patrick J, and we just completed our 1 through 10 breakdown of the different teams and what they could possibly do at their current draft position. And Patrick and I will be live with you guys again. The next time we will be live with you guys, we will be talking about the offense. So that is going to be exciting. We're going to be doing a deeper dive into the wide receiver position the next time that we both are on air with you guys. But again, I want to remind you, this is DB Talking Now, DB Talking Birds, DB Talking Philadelphia Eagles, live here with Patrick J. And if you guys want to show your loving support, please, 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 please go to streamlabs.com/DB Talking Now/tip. And if you guys want to check out the merch store, there's quite a few cool items on there so far. There's going to be more that is going to be added, which I'm really excited about. But it is streamlabs.com/DB Talking Now/merch. And we got raincoats with quite a few extra pockets. So any of those people who love to add, accessories on their person whenever they're walking down the street or over to a friend's house or whatever you like to do in your spare time. But we also have t-shirts, we also have sweaters, we also have tank tops. So if you want to rep DB Talking Now while you're at the gym, go ahead and do it. Just make sure that you wear a face cover because you need to stay safe and healthy because we got a crazy little thing called COVID out there. And guess what? We have face covers as well. So you can rep DB Talking Now while doing that. But anyway, I appreciate you all for joining. Patrick, I love you, man. And thank you so much for contributing to the show. You are phenomenal. Your wealth of knowledge is phenomenal as well. And I'm
Happy
looking
Valentine's Day.
Man. Happy Valentine's Day, dude.
Yeah.
I'm single. So thank you. I appreciate that. Any Valentine's Day wish I can get is much appreciated. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day to you and the lovely lady that you got.
Got you.
Thank you, everybody.
Love you.
Have a beautiful, love you too. Have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. Stay safe, stay healthy. Go Birds, baby.
Bye-bye.